Marvin Jones returns to Detroit. They've signed him. That's great. We already discussed all of this, but he said something very interesting in his opening press conference, which was, quote, "The culture's different here in Detroit." Okay, well, what does that mean? Right? Because last I checked, they've still yet to win a division. And hear me out before you get mad at me.
Right.
But they've yet to win a division, yet to go to the playoffs since he left, and they've yet to win a playoff game. Now, that's the cynical side of it. The honest side of this is since he's left, it was horrible. Campbell came in. They sucked their first year. They drafted well. They drafted well for a second year. They came out to a horrendous start. And boy, they finished the season down the stretch looking like a top 10 team in football. 8-2. That's the story of the Detroit Lions. Very, very condensed. Having said that, insert Marvin Jones, Gardner Johnson, David Montgomery, Cameron Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley. The list goes on and on. Re-signing key figures that you believe offer quality depth. You still have 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. You've got futures. Everything's going well. The culture's different, though. What does that mean? Well, what he means, or at least what I believe he means, is this franchise, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but when he says the culture's different, I don't think that's just everybody walks around and is happy. I think that's everybody walks around with the mindset that we're going to win.
Right.
We're focused on winning. That to me is what he means by culture. Maybe I'm reading this wrong.
No, you're right.
But I that's what I pulled away from this.
You're right. Because this is a guy who went through Caldwell for 2 years. He went through Matt Patricia, and now he's returning for Dan Campbell. So if anyone knows about culture, at least in Detroit recently, it would be Marvin Jones. I mean, the last 2 years of Caldwell, both 9 and 7 years, and then he was through the disastrous years with Matt Patricia. So the fact that he comes out and says the culture is different, that's also speaking into the end of Caldwell. And I'm glad you brought up that specific saying you just said. It's not just about how the players feel, right? They could be happy. I'm sure with Caldwell, they liked Caldwell a lot. But it's different, right? The expectations are different. Guys are walking around. They're expecting to win the division this year. There's just incredibly high expectations in Detroit, and it hasn't happened since, really, he's been here since the start. They didn't even have these expectations when he was here his first year with Caldwell. 9 and 7. Like, this is a different team. This is a team that you think could win a playoff game, and not just that, but make a run in a weak NFC. So he's speaking to what a lot of people have spoke to. I mean, it's not just Marvin Jones that's been saying this, but still, Marvin Jones saying it's significant because he's been through 2 other regimes in Detroit. And that's why it's so significant. If anyone has perspective about this, it's Marvin Jones.
Again, the perspective is nice and all. Don't get me wrong. And I just, to me, without reading too much into it, what he's telling me is they're serious about winning.
Right.
They're serious about attaining a certain goal that they've set. I don't think Marvin Jones signs back to Detroit just for a little vacation before retirement. I think he signed because there's a clear opportunity for this football team in this conference to make noise and potentially be the 3rd, 4th best team in terms of record this upcoming season. That's the potential the Lions have. Whether you think it's setting them up for failure, whether you think it's harsh, whether you think the expectations are too high, I don't think they are. I think they're pretty fair. When you make the signings that you've made, when you have the GM you have, when you've returned your offensive coordinator who was coveted for multiple jobs, yeah, I feel really good about their chances of accomplishing something that in my lifetime I haven't seen.
And I got some quotes here that he specifically said to Dave Burkett. And he said, number one, the decision to sign with the Lions, he said it was a family decision. They voted. And I was just like, let's do it. Be the first one to rock 0 in Detroit. Why not? And before that, he had the comments on the culture. And he said, it's a new feel for sure. And I think when I came here, the first thing everybody said was, hey, Marv, it's different. You're going to love it. The culture's different. The coaches, everything. It's not the same. So I think that was definitely one of the reasons why it was definitely appealing for me to come back here, and why not? So again, it speaks to even players saying it. And I think one thing that we don't talk about as much anymore, but that benefited the Lions has to be Hard Knocks. Because for the average viewer, average NFL fan that tunes into Hard Knocks, even players if they tune into Hard Knocks before the season, you got to see Detroit in a different lens. Like, that type of publicity in Detroit, at least, is rare. And you got to see Dan up close, the team, how they move. Yes, they started 1-6, But when you finish 8-2 down the stretch and you have that Hard Knocks season to reference, it's important. And I think players definitely pay attention to that stuff, and players talk to each other. So players from the Lions talking to Marv, he's interested and he's bought in. So I'm excited, man. I like Marvin Jones a lot. I think not only what he can do on the field, he can be productive to some extent at his age, but more so in the locker room as a leader. Really the oldest wide receiver we have currently, but somebody that you respect and somebody that I think can be one of those guys. He fits Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, what they're looking for in a player. So it's a great fit. And it's a cheap contract. So you get bonus points, Brad Holmes. You do. You do.
All right, give me one moment. Let me take care of something. But
Sam A., I want to read some of these comments. Sam A. said, "You right, Jeff. All my friends in Toronto who watch Hard Knocks fell in love with the Lions." Absolutely, Sam. I think that's something that, benefited the Lions more than probably we even talk about. Fairchild says, "Marvin Jones was always my favorite during that period. Him and Golden Tate were sweet to watch." What's up, Matt?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say our own Terry Foster wrote an article that's up on woodwardsports.com right now if you're in the chat and look down. It's on Sheila Hamp, the owner of the Detroit Lions, being the unsung hero. And it talks about some of the things she's done to transform the organization, how President and CEO Rod Wood and the leaders around her really feel like this is turning into a winning organization. So I just wanted to direct our viewers down there.
Yeah, and if anyone can speak on it, it's Terry Foster. I mean, I think we understand that. Philip says, Lions rocked Hard Knocks better than any other team. I mean, yeah, talk about the entertainment value. I mean, Jamal Williams not here anymore, but still. A lot of great moments on Hard Knocks. Doughboy Steve, V took a huge cut in pay, so it doesn't hurt anything. Yes, he did. Rita says, Marvin Jones went through Meyer and Pencilhead. That sucks.
Eric
yes.
Allen says, starting 1-6 with the opposite luck to what Minnesota had in those in those one-score games and lost them instead of winning them, which we could have gone at least 3-3 instead of the abysmal 1-6. Eric, respectfully, I think you're wrong. I disagree. I don't think you started 1-6 because of bad luck. I don't. I think you started 1-6 because of poorly timed thrown footballs, of poorly managed time, of poorly coached decisions, of an abundance of reasons. Minnesota is the definition of luck last year. I think we can all acknowledge that. Detroit's 1-6 start, that was just bad football.
Yeah.
That was just bad mental football. You made all the wrong moves at the worst times, and it cost you games even when you were scoring at an elite level. 4th and 9 against a third-string quarterback where you expect it to be a low-scoring game. You give them 6 points the other way. That's not acceptable. Coming off a bye week to Dallas, five turnovers, 8 penalties. That's unacceptable. But again, they turned it around. But I don't think that 1-6 start comes down to luck. Yeah. Wrong?
No, I'm with you. Michael says, agree with Terry. Start and ends with Sheila, Lions MVP. I think Sheila, as much as we don't talk about her, she is the unsung hero. What she's done with this culture, bringing in the right people, staying out of it, but also speaking when it's necessary. I mean, don't forget, she came out and said, be patient. When at a time where not a lot of Lions fans were patient. So, again, although we disagreed when she first came out, we're like, patient for what? They turned it around after that. So Sheila gets a ton of credit as well. She's done a lot to change the narrative with this organization only over the last 2 years. So credit to Sheila.